Okay, we continue with Mulefes Sappirim. Now we're going to have a piece on Egla Arufa. Mrs. Egla Arufa is entry Memhei on Yom HaShishi. Because of Sefer Bereshis Daf Reish Yudam Beis on Zorach Elkav Reish Yudam Beis says Shatam. The reason for the mitzvah of Egla Arufa Shekol is Fi Shekol Yisrael Mesim Heim Ovrim Aidei Malacham Maves. Right. Generally, when people die, says the Zohar, they're taken by the angel of death. Zelasia Nerak, but not in this case. The guy who was murdered, Shikdimo B'nei Adam, so he didn't have to go through the angel of death because a human being took his life. Kornzmano, before his time. Angel of death takes you at your time. So this guy, the murderer, beat out the angel of death and took the guy before his time. Now, when we know who the murderer is and judgment is meted out, right? Ain din lamala, so dinim don't have to come down from heaven because we did mishpat on earth. That's why it's always good to go to Beis Din. Always good. You avoid Beis Din, then if there's no din on earth, then din comes down from heaven and it hurts a lot more and hurts a lot more people. So when we know, in classical case of murder, we know not Egla Rufa, right? A regular case of murder where we know who the murderer was, we do din on earth, right? And therefore there's no din that has to come down from heaven. Here we don't know who killed him. So now it's a field day. So since Beis Din is not going to do Bi'ar Torah Mikir Bechos, now it's a field day for the prosecutors. Prosecute. Lakach Rufa on that place because it's a tikkun to get away all the prosecuting angels because they've got a field day because din is not being done, unfortunately, because we don't know who the murderer is. So this is a tikkun to get rid of the Makachkin and get rid of din from that place. And that's a tikkun of Egla Rufa. Okay, Memvav, Mitzvah Sfiras Omer, the Zohar regarding the Mitzvah Sfiras Omer. Because say for Daf Tzai Zayin Beis from Alaf on Beis, so Zohar Chel Gimel Tzadi Zayin and Alaf on Beis. We learned the Tosefta. There's parts of the Zohar that are called Tosefta. Kisov Pishot, so Bishuv Mitzrayim, even though you basically were taken out of Shiv Mitzrayim with Memtes Shari Tuma, Adain Lo Yutarm La Gamre, they still weren't totally pure. Vizel Sfiras Omer. Right, that's what Sfiras is about. Ki Kamosha Yosefras Yemei Tumasa, just like Onida, Bisman Azet, she gives herself a din of a Zava Gedola, and she counts Shiva Nikiyim, because even though she's separated for years, because it goes even after she stopped flowing, which generates the tumah. So also, Amisol got out of Mitzrayim. That's like the Hefsek Tara, right? But still, she still has to count, Sheva Nakim. So she counts 7 days. We count 50 days, which is 7 weeks. So his Zohar gives another reason why there's only Chatzi Halo during the days of Pesach. The days of Pesach are during the days of the Omer. So even though we start counting the Omer the day after Pesach, which is like the cosmic Hefsek Tara, we got out of Mitzrayim, which is the source of Tumah, still needs 7 clean weeks, just like the Zava Gedola needs 7 clean days. So we're not totally clean yet, and that's why we don't say Halal Shalem during the 6 days, the last 6 days of Pesach, which are the days of the Omer. All right, so now. Interesting. It's interesting what he chose. All right, so now he wants to give us an entry memzayin mitzvah satzitz Zohar. That has to do with the mitzvah of the Kohen Gadol having the tzitz. That was the plate on his forehead that said Kodesh Hashem. All right, so mitzvah satzitz Shabbos Reishut Chesam Beis. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is Shmos on Parshas Tetzaveh, where there's the command of Big Day Kahuna. Kolosam Azay Ponim, Kshum style Tzitz people have, Az Ponim, Chutzpidika face. It's called Az Ponim. When you look at the tzitz, their hearts would break. That's Lashon Tzitz. The fish at Tzitz Omed al Nes. Because Tzitz was, standing miraculous. Anyone who looked into tzitz, looking into the divine names encoded there, or divine name written out, from the holy letters of the tzitz, the shemus that are in there, came out a great light. This would cause, the people are generally very tough, to really have fear before them, and they would do tshuva. Mitzvahs kofer nefesh. Right, so a mitzvah kofer nefesh. Now, of course, it seems from the concept the kofer nefesh is talking about that the machzis hashekel that we gave was kofer, was a kapor for Am Yisrael, right? Because the Sefer Shmos daf kuf kavei zayin on base. So the Sefer Shmos daf kuf kavei zayin base says kachaya betchila rosh koy v'achach mevarch Yisrael. The way it was done is that first they brought in all the machzis hashekels, and then Mevarch Yisrael, and then they would bless Am Yisrael even before they counted. Umonim hakofer, and then they would count the machzis hashekel, which is called kofer. V'chozra, and then they would give a bracha again. That's how Am Yisrael was counted twice. Now I do believe it's Mefurish in Azar that the problem of counting did not present the problem of Ayin Ra because they're counting money, not people. But even with that, it's still kapara because they used to give the bracha. So even the fact that the counting was only on the money and not on the people, right? But even with that, give a bracha of Am Yisrael before and a bracha of Am Yisrael afterwards, so they're twice doubly blessed, right? Okay. Mem Tes, mitzvah siyas kapayim, Azor regarding the mitzvah of duchening, right? The Kohanim giving us our bracha. Because the Sefer Bamidbar, Daf Kuf Mem Zayin Omer Alpha and Beis, so it's Sefer Bamidbar, and Kuf Mem Zayin Omer Alpha and Beis says, Hikshu Rabbi Yitzchak asked, Matam Amru, also start Kohanim Shash, Kohanim B'Horos Ganafim. What is the reason for not to look at the Kohanim at the time that they're duchening, right? So I want us to. We pull our talisim over our heads. We cover our kids with our talisim. You can see. Because listen, what's the problem here? Because they shouldn't look at the Shechina. But the Shechina doesn't appear to anyone so long he's alive. Like, so we had, we met, I can't remember if it was in Rishis Chochma or in Melefes Sappirim, mentioned, Feres Chazal, that, Lo Yirani Adam V'chai is when he's alive. But B'shas Misa, you do see a Shechina. But rest assured, while you're alive, you don't see the Shechina, so there's nothing to see. Right, so what's the problem? Why do you got to close your eyes? Avert your gaze when the Kohanim are duchening. Like I just said, it's Baruch Shekivanti. So that's Rabbi Yitzchak's kasha in the Zayar. Veishiv Rabbi Yossi answered, Bishum the Shem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ramos Betzas Yadayim. Because God's name is even encoded in the 10 fingers of the hand, but of course that encoded name remains hidden. When the Kohanim are not duchening, like you could look at people's hands, but at time of the duchening, that encoded divine name comes out. So the Shechina per se is still invisible, but the divine name that's all encoded in the fingers, right, comes out when the Kohanim are duchening. That's what you should look. Oh, Kasav, another thing that's written over there in the Zohar. At that time, when the Kohanim are duchening, it's a shas ratzon. That's why I like davening in Sephardi minyanim. In Israel, they duchen every day. Here, I like davening during. Sorry, I'm getting personal, but it's my video. I'll do what I want. I finished the last leg of my year of davening for the Yomid for my father, Olav Hashem, in a Sephardi minyan, and I very much enjoyed that there was birchas kohanim every day. They did it, that's how the Sephardim paskin even in Chutzarts. And so everyone does it every day, and then Chutzarts only Sfaradim, and I loved it that I had the Amud and a Sephardi minyan and had Birkat Kohanim every day, because the time of Birkas Kohanim there's a Shas Ratzon Vein Din Moshe. There's no judgment, there's no Midas Adin at that time. That's why it's a good time to ask. That's why we have this Yehi Ratzon. We don't say it on Shabbos. We don't make personal bakashas, but it's a good time to daven, because the time of Rachamim. So that's why Yivakesh Racham Mishachom V'Nafshagom. That's what we ask, particularly ask for Rachamim in general, but particularly for someone who had a bad dream, a dream that perturbs him. He says the Rebbe Shalom that we say, and then the din turns to Rachamim. I understood that if a person can't say Yirotza like I couldn't, that was the Shliach Tzibur, and you're not allowed to. Besides that, there's no time to. You're not allowed to. You're not even allowed to answer Amen to what the Kohanim say. You're not allowed to answer Amen because the Shliach Tzibur, that is, because you have to keep your mind focused on reading to them the formula that they have to say. But I remember when that Gemara that runs parallel to Zohar, the Gemara in Brachas, Rav Nisim going there brings a medrash that even if you don't say the Hiratzon, the Etzem school of Birkas Kohanim just reverses the bad dream. Even if you had a dream that you were cut up into little pieces, the Kohanim come and the Kohanim come and they undo that dream. So a person who can't say the Hiratzon gets not just stam because he's too lazy, but he really can't say it like a Shliach Tzibur, or if it's Shabbos, you get that benefit just the same. Tom to according Parshas Achrei Mos b'Yom Kippurim. Okay, so why do we read Achrei Mos on Yom Kippurim? Right. Right. So now you might think, it's a no-brainer because that's where the Avodas Hayom is. But you have to ask yourself, okay, but why is it open up Achrei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron? Right? And that's really what the Zohar is answering. The reason why we read Parshas Achrei Mos and Yom Kippurim, that it opens up Achrei Mos Shnei Bnei Aaron, the Misa of Nara Avil. So say we got in Zanon Beis, so is Zohar and Vayikra, no Zanon Beis. This is what it says. Mikan Lamanu. From here we learn, Kol mi shesurim below him kaparos avonos of anyone who yisur and any type of affliction befalls him, it's a kapara, it's an atonement for his sins. But it's not just anyone who suffers, but anyone who is mitzvah. If you feel bad because a tzaddik suffered, that alone is atonement for you. Feeling bad for that yisur and the tzaddik, they take your sins out of the world. Right, that's another reason why we read on Yom Kippur, Parshas Achrei Mos, the nation should hear and be in pain over the death of the tzaddikim. And you will have kapara. So just to feel bad for the Misa of Bnei Aaron. And I saw it also in the Chemdas Hayomim. It's you should shed a tear for another Vavi on Yom Kippur. It's a big tikkun. Right? Anyone who has feels bad for the death tzaddikim or sheds tears. It's maush min hashamayim, the shtickle in Zera Shimshon that everyone should catch. It'll be available. Be sent out also by mailing. Zera Shimshon L'chayisar. We dealt with this extensively. He dealt with it. The idea of crying over the siluk of a tzaddikim. So he did not reference this Zohar, but we spoke a lot about crying over tzaddikim. So for he who cried for the death of a tzaddik, who declares upon him V'sar Avoncha, right? Your sins have been removed. Now that he will be a person who cried for the death of tzaddikim will be zochah that his children will not die in his own days. And regarding him, the pasuk says, Yira Zera Yachim will see children and he will have a long life and during the whole long life, Yira Zera Chas V'Shalom, he will not have to deal with the misa of his own children in his own lifetime. Okay, Nun Aleph Tam Areach b'Motzei Shabbos Azor on the Inyan of that we have Besamim on Motzei Shabbos. Kasu Sefer Vayikra Daf Lamed Emudav. So it's Vayikra Daf Lamed Emudav. It says Shmatzu Ish Echad V'Kil Nafedas Biado. The Chevraya of the Zohar. They saw one person he had three branches of Hadass, of myrtle, Hadassim in his hand, and they came to him, Va'amrulo Mama Zelachov. Why do you have these three Hadassim? V'heishiv, and he answered Rechbo, right? To smell, Kenegel Hashem Shalach Belil Matzai Shabbos, for the Shama, we have to smell something good, to compensate for the Neshama Yisera that leaves on Motzei Shabbos. I'm gonna give for another. Okay, fine. Okay, get it in. The general gist. That's why everyone smells besamim. For vai of the nefesh. Because in the Neshama Yisera leaves on Motzei Shabbos. But why three myrtle branches? Why three? Right. So he says, Keneged Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, ani kosher Riach behem. Right? It's Keneged Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I tie them together and I smell them. Shekasuv, as the pasuk says, Reach Shmanecha Tovim. The smell of your oils. Oils are good. Shebazeh hareach mitzkayim shchushas hanefesh be'emuna azos. With this smell, so Shmanecha, plural, Keneged Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That I guess it's also referencing, that Avinu was told to wander. That like you should have to smell up this, shake up the bottle of aromatic oils to spread the good scent. So with this smell, the weakness of the soul is strengthened with this faith. All right. Nun Beis. Wow. Mitzvah's chalitza. It's a mitzvah of, it's interesting. He wants us to know a Zohar. It's very interesting. Yeah, you wonder what got into his head, or how Rosh Shlomo Agazi decided what Zohars to make accessible, Shavel Chol Nefesh, like he does. Why he selected these pieces, to make all Jews aware of. So there's a Zohar regarding the mitzvah of chalitza. What's the mitzvah of chalitza? Is if God forbid a man died with no children whatsoever, his wife and he left a surviving brother. His wife has to either marry that brother, that's Yibum, is where the Torah suspended the Isser of Eshesach, to do the mitzvah of Yibum. But if he has children from anyone, even if not from his wife, there's any children walking the earth, any child that's Jewish, I should say, then his wife is not chayiv in Yibum and is also to his brother. All right, so now under the criteria that the wife of the deceased must marry his brother, but she doesn't want or he doesn't want, so it's not a shidduch, so they do the mitzvah of chalitza to release her so she can marry anyone else. She has to do chalitza, take his shoe off. There's a special chalitza shoe he has to take off, and there's a formula to say, and then base chalitza now, and then she can marry someone else. Okay, so there's a mitzvah of chalitza that's removing the yavam, the surviving brother's shoe, is what she has to do, and then through that ritual, for lack of a better word, she is mutaras l'shuk. But it involves taking off the shoe. It's why lachlot means to take off, right? So mitzvah chalitza. So it's a Zohar Bamidbar Daf Kuf Pei Amud Aleph. Shatamu b'minal. So now, why shoe? It's taking off the shoe. What's the shoe? Al derech she'amru. Right? It cross references. I guess it's a lashon of Chazal. Kol ma shelokeach hameis b'chalom min habayis hu tov chutz min haminal. Right? Let's say you have, God forbid, you have a dream that there's someone who's dead. Came, visited you, and took something from your house. All right? If he took something from your house, that's not bad, except if he took his shoes. If he took shoes, if you have a dream that someone from the other world, someone who's already deceased, comes, visits you, and took anything but shoes, that's not bad. If he took shoes, that's bad. Because it's a sign, God forbid, you're going to die, right? Because he's taking his... He's taking your foot away from this world, because you need shoes to walk, right? It's very painful to walk without shoes, so you can't be on earth, get it? On earth without shoes, right? So not having shoes means you're going to be off earth, God forbid. But you should know, it says the Zohar, right? If you have a dream, and in your dream, someone who's alive still, right, comes to your house and takes something. That's what you're dreaming. You're dreaming that someone who's still alive is in your house and he's taking something for you. It's just the other way around. If he takes something from your house, that's bad. Anything except the shoes. You dreamed that he walked out with your shoes, that's good. Because we know, back in the Megillas Rus attests to the fact that they used to do kinyan chalipin which chalipin is the easiest kinyan to do. Like, so in this age, we do it with a handkerchief, we give a kippah, right? But back in those days, they used to use shoes. Shalaf ish nalo, right? That's what Boaz and the Ploni Almoya did a kinyan chalipin, and to solidify the agreement. And the kinyan was done with taking off the shoe. We use a handkerchief. That's why it's called kinyan sudar. Because it was a sudar, a handkerchief was what was used most often. Like I say, this stage would give a kippah or something like that. But they used to use a shoe and used to be a sign of kiyum, to confirm something, to concretize something, right? Kain kodavar, as Paul says, kind of to establish something. Shalaf ish now, a man takes off his shoes. As kain bezelam kinyano. So if you have a dream that a living man took off your shoes, right? It's a sign that just the opposite. You're going to have kiyum in the world. You're going to have kiyum, right? You're going to be in this world strong because kiyum comes from the act of chalipin. There used to be all agreements were solidified. Kiyum with shalaf ish nala, so he takes off your shoes, right? It's actually, and he's a person who's living. You're going to have kiyum in olam hazeh. That is the reason why the widow that died, not having children from this husband who just died. I should stress that it goes by he has to leave children, or she's a yavama if he didn't leave children. As far as I know, if she was previously married, had plenty of kids, makes no difference. If she's the widow of a man who had no kids anywhere, right, so she still has to marry the brother, and she's not free until she does this ritual of chalitza, of taking his shoe off, right? So now the woman who takes off the shoe of the brother of the deceased, lirmos, to allude to this guy who refused to build his brother's house. He didn't want to have a child with his widow to carry on that family name, right? So he refused to build the house of his brother. So she says, Shiat Teres Baal tells us now this woman who's the crown, the Eshes Teres Baal, this woman who's the crown of her husband. Tells us now she takes this shoe, liramos, to allude to Shima Kabels also, right? She accepts it, and therefore the spirit of the dead guy finds peace in its place. Now this shoe now belongs to the deceased, that because his wife received it on his behalf. And it's the opposite of when the dead person takes shoes off a living person. It's now the living person gives shoes to the dead. And, as a word, you gave him a shoe. You gave him a shoe. When he takes away your shoe, he's means he's taking away your place in this world. You're standing in this world. You gave him a shoe. His wife, who represents him, took your shoe. You gave him a shoe. You gave him standing in this world. You didn't give him a kid to carry on his name, but you gave him some type of standing in this world instead. So it's the live guy giving the dead guy a shoe instead of the dead guy taking a shoe away from the live guy. It's to rob him of his standing in this world. Here, the living guy is giving a shoe to the dead guy to give him a standing in this world, because he's not doing it the other way of giving him a kid in this world. That is how I understand the Zohar, as he is teaching it to us. Okay. All right. The schus of the Zohar should help us, protect us, take away the kotzin from the Shoshana, and Bey Nifkun Megilza Barachmi Amen Kedi Rotzen.